Hi everybody, welcome to the weekend analysis for the upcoming week of the 29th of July 2024. So this week we would spend into the next month of August as well. So very exciting week for the markets. Now we have a very heavy week ahead. I think you would have seen in the group chat that I posted it would be a very heavy week in the markets. First of all, Tuesday we have consumer confidence. On Wednesday we have the FOMC interest rate decision, which is super critical, as well as Chair Powell's comments. And on Friday, we have, of course, the usual employment report and US unemployment rate, which is the typical report that is released every first week of the month. So entering to the new week, I want to cover a few things. First of all, this is the weekly chart of the IWM. So IWM, as you know, would look at smaller caps, right? Sorry, this is a daily chart. This is the weekly chart of IWM. Now, IWM looks at the smaller caps. Now, why is the smaller cap so important now is for a couple of reasons, right? Firstly, I think we are seeing very good rotation out of the larger caps, which has been dominating over the past 1 year. And larger caps, I mean, by the large cap technology names, obviously made up of the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, so on and so forth. Google, you have the the Facebook, the Apple, the Amazon, the Microsoft. All these names have been dominating over the past 1 year. Reasons because interest rates were high, and when interest rates were high, it was actually positive for all these names because they actually can benefit, in fact, and be even very, very resilient with higher interest rates. So a lot of the money has been flowing into these names over the past 1 year. But as you know, as we all know, interest rates is actually going to come down in September. So many of the Federal Reserve actually said that they are looking at lower interest rates in September. So what would that mean actually for the markets? I think that's something very important to take note because lower interest rates actually would benefit a whole group of names, and that is actually what I call the smaller caps. Okay, so IWM is the one that looks at the smaller cap index, and this is highly critical because you can see that right now over here we are in the ascendancy, right? Meaning that we are starting to ramp up in the IWM. Now, going back previously, you will notice that the last time the IWM had this similar formation was actually during this period. Just draw a line here, right? You would see. And that is actually the period of consolidation for the IWM. It's actually a sideways thing. Now, ignore this drop because it's COVID. And then IWM burst towards the upside. Now, previously as well, if you go back further into history, right, this was actually in 2016. Very similar time when we were in right now, right? Small caps consolidated and then, broke out to the upside. That was a post-election. So, where are we right now? We are in the potential ascendancy here in the smaller caps. So I want to talk about this right here. Now, smaller caps are starting to move, which means that your watch list must actually change, right? Which means that the names that were actually working in the past 1 year may take a bench seat, and small caps might actually take over. The daily chart, you can see as well this week, despite the pullback in the markets, small caps were sideways. In fact, if you look at the S&P 500, S&P was actually down this week. You look at the Nasdaq was also actually down this week as well. But Nasdaq, I think, could potentially bounce this week. We could see a bounce back above the 50-day moving average, right? If, let's say, the Federal Reserve is actually positive. Now, next chart is very interesting. If you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right, we did not break the lows, right? We did not break the lows. In fact, we have already broken out of this key area, and we just retested that breakout area where resistance is now becoming support. So the market is telling us very clearly that we are seeing good rotation out, right, of the technology names into the small caps. And this is what we call a rolling bull market, meaning that there's rotation across all the different sectors, which is very positive for the longer run. Now, I've talked about it so many times, and I said that if the only money is going to the Nasdaq and the technology names, this bull market will not last. But now we're seeing, the money being spread out into some of the smaller caps, and that is actually a really good news. Now, names I want to cover this week, I want to cover different sectors which I think that you should be focusing on in line with the movement in the small caps. Now, first one here is cryptocurrency. Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is getting ready for a move higher, right above this descending trend line. So watch for this move higher this week in Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin could really move very nicely over here. Watch for this BITO, right? You can actually buy it off the exchange, and this actually tracks Bitcoin prices. Now, semiconductors, obviously has been pulling back. Reason is because you had a really rapid run to the upside. So now we're seeing a corrective move here, right, in the semiconductors, doing that typical wave pattern, right? So now it's that wave down pattern. So I think semiconductors, you need to wait a little bit more, still consolidating, but focus on other names. Now, where is the money flowing to? The money is obviously flowing to biotech, right? That's something that is very interesting, right? And it's a sector that has lacked technology, right? Look at this huge descending trend line here, finally broken out right over here in the December period. And now biotech is actually forming a series of higher lows, right? Which is a sign of a potential uptrend. Later, I'll go through some biotech names I think you should be looking at right here. Okay, biotech looks really, really good. Now, another name that could really start to bottom out is actually solar, right? Solar has been on downtrend for a long time. And look at this area here, huge resistance. But this area also has been very, very good support. And now we are back above it with also another high low forming here. So solar names could really be very interesting. One to really watch next week. If you look at the weekly chart, right, is starting to rebound from oversold conditions. So I think solar, right, looks like a really good buy over the next couple of months. Cybersecurity also looks to be remaining to be very resilient, and I think price could really rebound next week. Huge resistance right over here. We bump into resistance. That's why we pull back, and then I think we will bounce to the upside again. Cybersecurity continues to look really good. Now, some names that I think continue to look really good is Adobe, right? Adobe has pulled back to a really nice level. I think you can see a bounce here. I'm actually looking for a longer term position. This one really benefits from the trend in AI. I think Adobe looks really, really good. What I like about is obviously this earnings gap up, which was a really good earnings report, right? So price now back to oversold areas, 50-day moving average as well as the oversold areas on the stochastic. So Adobe looks very, very nice. Longer term, right, trend is to the upside. ServiceNow, what a wonderful earnings report last week. Very, very nice earnings, and then breaking above this key level right over here. I think ServiceNow is one that hits a lot higher, right? I'm very bullish on this, right? It's a very, very strong technology name that a lot of companies cannot do without. So very nice move to the upside. I do own a lot of positions. In fact, ServiceNow is my second largest position, right? Second to Nvidia. Palo Alto Networks looks really good. Look at this area here, right? Very nice oversold stochastic point. I think this one could bounce really nicely off the 50-day moving average as well. ON, right? On holdings, very nice as well, consolidating very nicely. We are seeing a high low being formed in the stochastic. So one that could really rally next week, right? Huge support area here. I think ON is really, very nice. In fact, I visited the store today and I see a huge crowd. Very nice products. I think something that could really move higher here. ELF is one I think that continue to remain positive. As long as we can move above that 50-day moving average, this one still looks really, really good. We continue to hold this. COHR, right? This is Coherent Corp, right? Bouncing off the 50-day moving average. Smaller cap name as well. Looking really nice. Now, a name that looks really, very interesting this week that popped out in my watch list is ADEY, right? A very nice move here. You just plot a descending trend line here. You would actually see that price has actually broken out of this sideways channel, right? Sideways consolidation, right? And now breaking it above continuation of the bull trend, right? So this is what we call the bull trend. And then price consolidates sideways before another move higher. Very small company, right? Very small company. Just probably around 300 million. But then again, very interesting, right? I think this one can hit a lot higher here. Okay, in terms of the biotech names I'm looking at, AppV, right? AppV is one that stands out very nicely. When you look at this huge base, right, forming very nicely as well, right? Huge base here. If you look at this area here, you can see that it has been very strong support right over here, resistance, sorry, and finally price is breaking back up again. So biotech is where I think strength is coming in. This one can really move much higher here. It's at all-time highs here in AppV. Regeneron as well, another very, very strong name in the biotech sector. I think starting to move as well. Look at this low stochastic point, moving very nicely as well. This one could really start to move a lot higher. Now, HIMS also is one that is capturing my attention quite a lot. looking very nice. As long as price can stay above the 50 moving average, this one can continue to rally to the upside. So 10 minutes weekend analysis, very short. I think in summary, huge rotation from the large cap to the small cap. You need to be aware of what to buy. Semiconductor names are still leading but are pulling back. Good opportunity in Bitcoin, solar, cybersecurity, as well as biotech. I think these are the sectors that you could be watching over the next couple of months. Now, Nasdaq is oversold, so Nasdaq could actually bounce next week. I think that would be quite nice to actually look at starter positions because Nasdaq has really pulled back quite a lot over the past couple of weeks. So with that, I want to wish you a very good week ahead. Heavy week, so let's catch up on the group chats. Federal Reserve meeting as well as the employment numbers on Friday. So thank you and wishing you a very good week ahead.